The Edge, everything bass fishing. Coming to you worldwide from MegaWare Keelguard Studios.
What's going on, Bass Edge Nation? Another episode. Excited to be here on a holiday weekend. That's right. It's July 1, so we've got Independence Day coming up here in just a few days, man. It's summer seems like it just started, yet we're rolling right into, it seems like midsummer of fishing, certainly down south, no question. Up north, still a different ball game, still kind of late spring, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. But again, always appreciate everyone being here. Huge shout out to MegaWare, our primary sponsor for so many years. So thanks to them, always providing boat owners with protection from grinding salt, abrasive rocks, concrete boat ramps. Check out all of their great boat accessories at keelguard.com. Of course, you never want to go on a boat without a keel guard, so you never know when nature's going to call, and you better hit that bank real quick. Keel guard's going to help you out. But also a reminder to everybody, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like, make sure you comment down there, whether you're listening to us on YouTube or one of your favorite platforms to stream podcasts. Make sure that you subscribe. You never want to miss an episode here of Bass Edge Radio, released on the 1st and 15th of every single month. Man, here we go. A quick review of the ongoings in the Bassin tournament world. Man, just since our last episode there, June 15th, we've had several big events, as seems to be the case always from March through about midsummer. And the Bassmaster Open division, they went through stop number 5 of 9, for those anglers that are in the Elite qualifying division, that EQ division, but they were out at Lake Eufaula, the one over in Oklahoma, not Alabama. And Joey Nania, he came away with another open victory. That was his second open victory for that Alabama. He's a guide and also a Sweetwater TV host. So congratulations to Joey. Man, you know, he had a solid event, but really capitalized that final day kind of with a last-ditch effort, fishing some retreads there around the tournament takeoff, but was able to utilize a finesse tactic, using a Ned rig to go ahead and lock up a win. Seems like overall kind of a tough derb for Lake Eufaula. I don't know if a lot of those fish were just in transition in that time frame, but again, big congrats out to Joey. Man, an exciting tournament. The MLF Invitationals swung through the Potomac River, my old home lake, so it was always fun to watch that. That was stop 5 of 6 in that series, the MLF Invitationals. Nick Hatfield stayed close throughout the week and then slammed the door on day 3. Had the biggest bag of the event. Coolest thing is we're going to talk to Nick on this episode of Bass Edge Radio. We're going to hear his breakdown of the victory. We're going to hear about kind of the seasonal behavior pattern that took place on the Potomac that maybe you haven't heard a whole lot about on a river system in general. So we're going to talk to Nick about that, but obviously that pattern helped him bring home a $115,000 payday. So shout out to Nick. We're going to have him on here in just a moment. The Lake Champlain Toyota Series just recently completed. A place that I fished and did mediocre at best, unfortunately, but the tournament was kind of a toss-up between post-spawn smallmouth fishing and still a lot of fish on beds there. The smallmouth still on beds there. There was a few random big bags and some big largemouth weighed in the event as well, but smallies basically dominated that entire tournament. Sight fishing for those smallmouth took the crown. Plattsburgh, New York local Brent Carnwright got the W. Brent's been close several times. I believe the top 10 in the event was basically a split between sight fishing and casting for spawners. Dude, just that place is unreal. 17 pounds the first day of the tournament netted me a 93rd place. So absolutely crazy. But just the last day or so, we saw the St. Clair MLF Bass Pro Tour close out. And they had some calm days, some windy ones in that what I would consider a mini Great Lake event. Most of the event obviously took place there on St. Clair. They could fish the St. Clair River above St. Clair. They could fish the Detroit River there below St. Clair. And even Erie, Michigan waters were open, but it didn't seem like that was a big player. Jordan Lee, he's caught them good there in the past. He caught them really well there again, and he had lots of fish over 5 pounds throughout the week, and really that consistent quality, that 4+ pound average with a few of those kickers really sealed the deal for him. He had mid-20s the first day, which was the knockout round, which is really kind of the first day of the championship round, because now they carry over the weight into day 2 of the championship second day, where he had 23 pounds and basically locked that deal up, man. But finding those earlier post spawners seemed like to be a pretty big deal, so those fish could be feeding up already and getting a little bit fatter. And that was kind of the difference. If you could find those wads of fish that were already on bait and had been on bait for a while, that seemed like the deal that really helped out Jordan Lee go ahead and knock that out with a little bit better quality weight. But as you can see, we are out here on the road taping this episode. We're up here in New York on the St. Lawrence Seaway. Super excited to be here, but hang on. We're going to have our feature angler, Nick Hatfield, break down a couple weeks he's had here on the water. Not only there on the Potomac, but also on Lake Champlain. So y'all stay tuned. Again, we're going to be right back with more Bass Edge Radio.
You know the importance of protecting your investments, so choose the protection the pros pick. Grinding sand, abrasive rocks, and concrete ramps are no match for our patented technology. The MegaWare Keel Guard is made tough and made to stick. Install it yourself in less than an hour, providing the most dependable, most trusted protection for your boat, guaranteed for life. Insist on the original Keel Guard the pros have picked for 25 years. MegaWare Keel Guard. Nitro, a rush of tournament adrenaline. Nitro, the choice of champion, where performance meets play. Nitro, a big water beast, a pure fishing machine. Nitro, release the champion with.
All right, here we are. Back in the studio. You can see the man right there. Welcome back to Bass Edge Radio. We're rolling right into our feature angler spotlight. You see him right there on the screen. MLF Invitational Pro from Tennessee, Mr. Nick Hatfield. Nick, thanks for joining us here on Bass Edge.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Kurt. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, brother. Hey, man, it was awesome to see you notch the victory there on the Potomac a few weeks ago in the MLF Invitational. Many of us that watched the sport really close kind of saw this day coming, honestly. You were a rookie last year, had a couple close calls. Your rookie year, almost winning a couple of events. Obviously, TVA stalwart, being from Tennessee, but it seems like you really get along with those TVA impoundments. But I got to ask you a question. You've had some really quality finishes, and you're 11 events into your pros career. Are you disappointed, or are you surprised that it took you 11 events to get that first win?
Man, I'm definitely not disappointed. I'm very blessed to have won as quick as I did. I've been close several times, and I was talking to my brother earlier. There's household names that have never gotten a big win. So, very blessed and just very happy that it happened as quick as it did. I put a lot of work into it. And, being close several times, I think it definitely, just helped me, like it's just a process. So, it just, it all led to, kind of what went down there, the 3 days on the Potomac. Very blessed.
Absolutely. Well, it was great to see, man. You're kind of self-admitted, watched live a little bit, kind of know a little bit of your history, but, not a huge amount of experience on tidal waters. Yet you've done really well on the Potomac River. You've cashed checks all 3 times you've been there. You got a top 5 to boot in a Toyota Series in the fall in 2021. What is kind of making you jive with the Potomac River and that particular fishery, even though it's the tidal water?
Yeah, I guess first and foremost would probably be just the grass. I grew up fishing Gunnersville and the Tennessee River a lot, and we don't have much grass here in East Tennessee. But the Tennessee River, I grew up on it, and I really love to fish grass. Anytime we go into a fishery that has grass, that's normally my starting point and what I like to do. But other than that, I think like you said, I haven't had that much experience on tidal, but the Potomac is different for me because it's almost like you don't have to worry about the tide as much as you do for say somewhere like the James. I feel like the James River, I had to times I've been there, I've had to really dial in like the tide and when to be where, and kind of rotate a lot of different places. But for the Potomac, I feel like I can kind of find an area that has a good population of fish where I can get some better bites, and whether they're biting really good at that time or not, I can just spend my time in there and figure out how to catch them on a high tide, a low tide, an outgoing, an incoming, all that stuff. So I think those 2 things, allow me just to kind of hunker down and find the population of fish, and then, just fishing the grass, fishing my strengths, doing the things I like to do. I think, that just really helps me there.
Yeah, it's really important key. I think you say there that population of fish is really good on the Potomac, and that allow I grew up there. I don't know if you knew this, but I grew up
Yeah.
on the Potomac. That's kind of where I cut my teeth bass fishing. Um, so many great memories there. But I feel like on the Potomac, it is that style of fishery where you can kind of hunker down in an area that has some better quality and a good population of fish. And when the tide is right, you catch enough because of the big population of fish that you don't have to really run the tides, like you mentioned on the James River. The
Yeah.
James, kind of came to a point where it had a good population, but it's been a lot of fluctuation over the last 20 years of when it's been good and not been so great. And it seems like you've already dialed that in to where on the James, you got to kind of move with the tides a little bit to stay on top of a bite window.
Yeah. I don't know that I've dialed it in very much.
Well, you've got the concept, no doubt.
I,
You've got.
I definitely feel like I understand it a little bit, enough to at least get some bites. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the cool thing on the Potomac is you relied a lot on bluegill beds, right?
Mhm.
And this isn't something that's talked about a lot. I'll let you in on something, which I'm not sure this at that point in my career I really knew what it meant, but I had a big fish at an Elite Series event on bluegill beds on the Potomac when we were fishing it in the summertime,
Really?
and I never really like because I left there kind of in the mid of my fishing career,
Hmm.
and moved down south to Texas at Lake Amistad, where we have bluegill beds too, but just never had the opportunity to really put that together on the Potomac like you did. Dude, you dialed that in really quick that you found some bluegill beds in a creek and you figured out you could catch some bigger fish around them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was like day 2 of practice. I think it was raining just a little bit. It was probably like 9:30, 10 o'clock. It was getting closer to low tide, and I was throwing my Rico around, and I got up really close to the bank because everyone in there was out in the middle in the grass. I mean, there were people everywhere. I
Right.
got up really close to the bank, and I had 3 or 4 really nice fish roll on my Rico, and I had the hook spin up. And as I kept going, trolling down the bank, I just looked over and noticed it was a giant bluegill bed. I mean, and it was probably, I'm going to say, 30 yards wide and 20 yards long, maybe 30.
Wow.
It was probably about 30 by 30. I mean, it's a pretty good sized bluegill bed. I mean, you could smell it. You could smell the gills. You could see the bass swimming around. I saw probably, I don't know, every bit of 15 to 18 pounds swimming around on it. And I'm like, man,
Wow.
that's pretty cool. So I just hurried up and got out of there. And I never went back to it again in practice. But it wasn't really until day one and day two of the tournament that I really realized how many fish were coming to that and using it. I mean, I probably caught, no joke, I probably caught 30 to 50 fish off of that one bluegill bed there in
Unbelievable.
Quantico in the tournament. And, just day one, pulling up to it, throwing my wacky rig out there and catching as many as I did, it was like, oh, this is a no brainer. I'm going to come back tomorrow for sure. And then day two, you're like catching them there again. Like it's something that I kind of unlocked, throughout the tournament. Found it in practice, but after fishing it like I did and stuff, it really opened my eyes to how many fish were using it, were coming to it on an outgoing tide, coming back to it on an incoming tide. I mean, it was just a place that they could stop, they could feed, they could pull back out in the grass. I mean, it was a really cool spot.
That is super cool. Now for folks and yourself, you live in East Tennessee. You got Douglas, Cherokee. What's that other one there on the Tennessee border, Virginia Tennessee border?
South Holston.
South Holston. Do you find the bluegill beds on those fisheries as well in that kind of late May, June, early
Yeah,
July timeframe?
yeah. So I was doing the same style of stuff on the Potomac, like here at home on Douglas, I've found bluegill beds before and been able to make that work. I've had, found them up shallow around the edges of the water willow, and you catch them on a frog, a wacky rig, that type of
Right,
stuff.
right.
It's basically what I did growing up when we'd go bluegill fishing. I had a pontoon boat or whatever. It's kind of how I, got into it and was able to find some bass doing it a few years ago on Douglas, and I've always kind of kept that in my mind and looked for it in places.
So when you're fishing those impoundments like that, do you find what I thought was really interesting? You said it seemed like new fish were coming into that bluegill bed on the Potomac, and that one in particular, the first two
Yeah.
days we've talked about up to this point. Do you feel like that's the same thing on impoundments, highland impoundments like those in your home area, or do you feel like those fish are more residential, and then on tidal fisheries because of water fluctuation and current that it you know gets more fish
Yeah.
involved in a particular bluegill bed?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think on somewhere like Douglas, where they like to be offshore in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Several of the really good bluegill beds I've found out there have been really close by to like a deep ledge place where they would get schooled up. And I think fish do go back and forth. Like at night or early in the morning, they'll pull up there and they'll kind of mill around, eat something, and then go back out deep the heat of the day. And I'm not going to say they're not up there in the heat of the day too, but I do think that they kind of move back and forth. But for sure on the Potomac River, they move back and forth a lot more than that. I think they do somewhere
On an
on
impoundment.
a pound.
Okay. All right, cool. So let's move into day three, man. This is where you made the call, right? You made a call to essentially, I don't want to say abandon, but not go to that day one, day two area that had been consistently productive for you. Obviously, it was pretty good. You were right there, top 10 oriented. You're looking to try to make the Bass Pro Tour at the end of the season. You're at stop number 5. You've got a lot of things on the line. Of course, everybody wants to win, uh, but you take a huge risk.
Yeah.
Let's talk first about that huge risk. How do you evaluate that risk from that tournament perspective versus a seasonal perspective?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I wouldn't say it's all that complicated. Like when
It
I go out,
sounds complicated to me, dude.
I mean, when I go out and I practice for these tournaments, I'm
Right.
trying to practice every single time to try to find the fish I can find to win the tournament. I'm trying to win every one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not out there to just cut a check and hopefully make it. Like I'm going to go down swinging or I'm not going to catch them. I mean, it's just that simple to me. So,
Okay.
like I came off of a 103rd place finish at Lake of the Ozarks, and it was no different for me there. I had ways that I could go catch a limit, but I chose not to do it because I wanted to try to catch bigger fish. And it really hurt me, I mean, it is what it is. That happens sometimes doing that. But
Sure, sure.
on the Potomac, figuring out what I had figured out and being in second going into that last day, I had been close to winning before. And, I've just tried to stick with the program and I've come up short. And I told my camera guy that last day, that morning, I said, man, I'm going to gamble this morning. I'm going to go to an area that I've never fished on this river in my entire life. And I'm going to go practice. I'm going to see what happens. I mean, because worst case scenario, the area that I'd been catching them, it was no good in the morning. It seemed like it had to be 10:30, 11:30, 12 o'clock before it got good. So I knew, hey, then I'll at least be able, I should be able to run over there and beat out 14 to 16 pounds and see what happens. But,
Right.
Having that place that I knew about that I hadn't been to, it really, I did take a gamble, but, it paid off and I'm glad I did it.
Absolutely. Paid off in a big way. And it's not like you took a risk going, in a nowhere's land. I mean,
Yeah,
you
no,
went
it
to
was literally
Chickamuxon
just
Creek.
across the river.
It's a very well known, tributary that catches that people catch a lot of fish there. So
Mm-hmm.
so it wasn't like a total like dice throw in the air. So I get that too.
Yeah.
And it made the right call, dude. You caught the biggest bag of the tournament on day three. Were you you had that flurry on another bluegill bed? You had no
Mm-hmm.
clue it was there, but was it surprising to you? Did you feel like, well, I guess that's just how you're gonna win?
Yeah, so I've been told for a long time when it's your time, it's your time. Like it's just gonna happen. There's nothing you can do to stop it. And that day was like that. It was just crazy. I mean, I rolled in there and I just went practicing. I caught a good one out of the back of that creek, and I caught a couple small keepers and worked my way out. And I was going down the bank, and I thought initially that it was just a little ditch with a strip of milfoil, and I
Mm-hmm.
saw one come up and eat, and I threw the Rico over there and caught it, and it was like a high three, and then that's when I hit that flurry with the Rico, and I mean, that right there, I put 17 pounds in the boat, and I knew at that point in time, I was like 17 pounds, like, I've got a really good shot at this.
Right.
Especially, I had like a 210 in the live well and one just barely over three. I was like, if I can get rid of those, I mean, I should have this thing. And it just felt, I had no clue. I had no clue that I was close. I had no clue what they were catching, but it just felt like I was having that type of day. I mean, when stuff goes right, you can just
Yeah,
feel it. You can tell, and everything was just flowing. I was making good decisions, and it felt good.
that's all. Well, I'm sure it felt really good to get the win. So that was awesome. When you look back, obviously you're a genius, right? I mean, you're a genius. If it goes south, you took a risky opportunity to maybe. I mean, you probably wouldn't have lost a whole lot of points, but certainly, you're kind of on that edge right now to qualify for the Bass Pro Tour, right?
Yeah,
You've got a great chance going into the Mississippi River, another river fishery, another grass fishery, which apparently you're very comfortable around. So, how do you look toward that final stop now on the Mississippi River? Going to go down here in just a couple weeks, potentially qualifying for that next level of the Bass Pro Tour.
yeah, man. I would love to qualify for the Bass Pro Tour. I'd love to get up there with those guys and see what I can do.
There's a lot of money given away in that tour. A lot of money.
a lot, and it's the goal. You always want to, you want to make the pinnacle of the sport. You want to, make that rise, and that's for sure the goal. But like I said before, I'm not going to worry about the points. If I go up there and I worry about the points and I try to fish safe and do this and that, I may come away with a check, but I don't think a check's going to do it. So I'm just going to stick to my game plan. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to try my best to catch as much weight as I can, find as many fish as I can, try to go for the win, and hopefully, if I can, pull out a top 10, top 15, maybe top 20 will get it done. We'll see, but just try to
Absolutely.
shoot for the win and see what happens.
Well, there's going to be a lot of people rooting for you. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
appreciate
the win at the Potomac qualified you for the 2024 RedCrest. I haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about this yet. It's going to be down at Lay Lake in March. Do you have any experience down there? Is that even on your radar yet? I mean, it has to be a little bit, right?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. That's
okay.
that's a a great that's a great experience. I mean, I haven't experienced it, but it's going to be a great experience. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait. I definitely look forward to it. I've fished a couple college tournaments on Lay, and I've got a couple buddies that live down there. I've been fishing with them out there a couple times in the past.
Okay.
So I've got a little bit of time out there. I know a little bit about it, but we're definitely going to have to put some work in. Maybe go visit it, check it out. See what we can come up with. But I definitely look forward to that. That's going to be a really good time.
It's going to be an exciting event. It's going to be fun to watch. Man, let's take a breather and a moment to thank Bass Pro Shops as the presenting sponsor of this feature angler spotlight segment. Bass Pro Shops reminding you we all live downstream. We're going to be right back with more from Nick Hatfield right after this message.
Plenty of sunshine.
Come on, man, let's roll! What the?
To catch the fish, you need to be one with the fish.
With Power Pole shallow water anchors, you'll get the ultimate in precision, power, and control, so you can catch more fish. No face paint or phony fins necessary.
Excessive shock and vibration are two leading causes for premature battery failure. Prolong the life of your batteries with the new MegaWare Battery Guard. The Battery Guard sits under your battery and absorbs excessive vibration and bounce, reducing G-shock by up to 80%. Great for boats or anywhere shock and vibration can damage a battery. The Battery Guard can easily be trimmed to fit virtually any custom shape or battery size. Save money by protecting your batteries. Spend more time on the water and less on maintenance. Find yours at megaware.com.
All right, here we go. Welcome back. More Bass Edge Radio with MLF Invitational Champion Nick Hatfield, our feature angler spotlight. And it's been a fun conversation, Nick, man. I got to ask you a quick question. Of course, you roll up to Champlain after winning the Potomac River event. You managed to put together enough bass for a check in an extremely big field. 240 some boats, a predominantly a lot of locals, a lot of out-of-towners too, but man, you did it in a short practice period, kicking my butt along the way. But how did you approach, I love to talk about smallmouth this time of year just because it's so prominent on all the tournament series, right? So, and a lot of people, I'm up at St. Lawrence right now, a lot of people come up to the north, get away from that southern heat, kind of just, see what's going on up here. How can we help some folks catch some more smallmouth? You're on the water, just a short practice, isolating some fish, identifying some fish so quickly on such a large impoundment like Champlain. Can you kind of break down how you did that?
Yeah, so, I drove up from the Potomac, I believe it was Tuesday night, and got there pretty late, rigged rods till about midnight or so. And I slept in till about, I'm going to say 8 or 8:30. Snuck out there and, I had a pretty good idea of what may or may not be going on. I knew that, I figured that spawning smallmouth were probably going to win it. But, just the time, I didn't have the time to go out there and find them. And I knew that there should be some post spawners or even some fish that I could, potentially scope off of some boulders, like 10 to 20 foot.
Right.
And so that was kind of my approach. I just tried to look for a little bit of both. And, luckily the time that I've spent up there, I kind of know which areas to get in and try to start looking first. And, I'm not going to lie, for about the first 3 or 4 hours of that practice day I had, I don't know if I caught a smallmouth, and I was getting a little worried. But towards the end of the day, I was able to locate just a couple little deals, and most of it was just using forward-facing sonar. And, I was catching those skinny post-spawn bass because, I weighed in like 17 and a half a day.
Right.
It was crazy because –
but it was consistent.
It
It was
was
consistent.
consistent. 17.5 pounds a day gets you 53rd. Anywhere else in the country, I'm like, it's going to win. So it was
That
pretty wild. But, I just kind of stuck to those areas. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to probably contend for a win unless I got lucky in the tournament and stumbled on something. But, I wanted to try to cut a check, and I was able to make it happen.
So do you think now that forward-facing sonar and all the technology, you see these northern fisheries just really explode? Is it
Yeah.
that the fish have always been here and now we're getting better at catching them? Or is the fishing just getting better at all these northern fisheries? I'm on St. Lawrence today, had a little over 20 pounds and felt like I wasn't on squat. I spent
Yeah.
like 6 hours out there, and
Mhm.
but you roll up to Champlain, catch 17 and a half a day. It's still, you say 53rd, but I mean it's a tough field. There's a
Yeah,
lot
no
of
doubt. No doubt.
240 anglers there, so you're catching them pretty consistently. What's your thought process on these northern fisheries? I don't know if you took a look at St. Clair the last couple days, but
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Pretty wild.
it
I
is
mean,
crazy.
I think the fisheries are really healthy. Um, I think that they've always been really healthy. I think that forward-facing sonar is definitely playing a part in some of the weights we see nowadays. Because without it, there's a lot of fish out there that have never been caught, especially some of these old smallmouth. I think there's a lot of fish out there that have never been caught or never would have been caught without it. And
Right.
so I do think that that's exposed a lot of the fish and a lot of the weights that we see now. But I do think that the fisheries are just really healthy.
Yeah.
And it helps when it's iced over for 6 months out of the year, because they get no pressure and nobody messing with them. Like where I live here in Tennessee, they got boats pinging across them 24
Yeah.
something, 365 days a year. So that
December,
definitely,
January, people are still looking at them,
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
catch them. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
freaking awesome. All right, man. When you look at smallmouth post spawn, early summer, like we are in right now, like you attack Champlain, how do you see similarities to largemouth? I'm trying to equate this to some anglers that are fishing down south. They just don't have the smallmouth like they do up north. Is it kind of the same behavioral cycle if they were to come up here and kind of, you know, tap into this, or is it just completely different? How do you see the two similarities and differences all at the same time?
Yeah. So, for me, I, especially being here in East Tennessee, we follow the bass, as they go from deep in winter, shallow throughout the spring, they spawn, and then a lot of them want to get back out offshore. And I think for smallmouth, it's really similar. The water's a little bit cooler up there than it is maybe here in Texas where you're from. But, I think it's basically the same type of deal. They'll they'll move up shallow, they'll spawn, and then a lot of them want to get, back out deep 20, 30, 40 feet. The grass in some of those fisheries, the St. Lawrence, Champlain, St. Clair, a lot of those places do have grass, and that helps fish, a lot of them, even smallmouth, it'll help them stay shallow, that 5 to 10 foot range. And that's anywhere in the country really. If you've got grass, or even if you don't, there's fish always year round that'll live shallow. And I
Especially
think,
when there's grass. Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
especially with grass. So having the grass up there on those fisheries, the ones that have them, I think that helps a lot of fish stay shallow. And then you go up there and you fish at Toyota, and it's say end of July, early August, and yeah, it's probably going to be one deep, but you still get a lot of guys that blast them up shallow, and a lot of guys are just like, man, it's crazy. Like these fish are still shallow. Like what's going on? But you got to realize the water temperature is a lot cooler up there, and they do have a lot more habitat up there as far as grass and this and that. So it's just one of those things. There's always going to be fish shallow, and to me, I feel like that a lot of the really big smallmouth, 5, 6, 7 pounds. You catch a lot of them out deep, but I still think your 5, 6, 7, 8 pound smallmouth, they don't want to go much deeper than say 20 foot a lot of times. So I know it might sound crazy, but I believe that your true giants, I think they want to stay shallow as much as they can.
Yeah, it's a great point. I can relate that to Lake Amistad, where I've been living the last 12 or 15 years, and I feel like most of the big bass are caught between 15 and 25. Although there's a ton of fish out in 30 to 40
Mm-hmm.
in the summertime and in the wintertime. Still, a majority of the big fish caught in that kind of 15 to 25 zone, right where that kind of light penetration
Mm-hmm.
disappears. I feel like that's such a critical area, unless there's grass up there, which obviously reduces some of that light
Yeah,
penetration as
no
well.
doubt.
But yeah, great concept right there. More people are getting to know Nick Hatfield, watching Nick Hatfield as an angler, becoming fans of Nick Hatfield. If a fan of Nick Hatfield wants to understand techniques and styles of fishing that should come to mind when they think of him, we think of maybe Kevin Van Dam's spinnerbait jerkbait. We think of Denny Brower jigging. Um, what does a fan? What should come to mind when they start thinking of Nick Hatfield?
It's pretty crazy just to hear that I may have fans, to be honest.
You do, brother. You got fans.
I mean, I really hope that guys see me as someone that's pretty well rounded. I feel like I've spent a lot of time trying to hone in on certain techniques and really all techniques and trying to, feel comfortable picking up anything, and being able to use it well. And based off my finishes, I've been able to catch them all over the country and have good finishes in a lot of different places. There's certain things that I like to do. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, I love to use live scope. It's starting to become one of those things to where, I really don't want to use it as much.
Hmm.
I'd like to catch them different ways without having to stare at that screen. And don't get me wrong, I love to do that, and it's fun when you're catching them. But to have that win on the Potomac where I literally didn't have to use it at all,
Right.
that's like I love that, and I'm glad that happened. But I just I would hope that guys see me as somebody that's well rounded, and I can kind of utilize everything to do what I need to do to get it done.
Right. Very cool. Well, it was fun to see you jump in the Champlain Toyota. Have you jumped in any other Toyotas yet so far this year?
Yeah, I fished I think it was a southeastern or southern Toyota on Smith
Okay.
Lake. It may have
Okay.
been central, to be honest, but I think I missed a check by one place down there.
You
Uh,
like those spotted bass on Smith?
I do. I love that place. I just, it was another one of those deals. I had a kind of a short practice, and it was cold, getting warm, and I really didn't figure it out that quick that week. But just part of it.
Well, we're going to see how your 2024 is going to set up pretty soon in a couple weeks. Once the MLF Invitationals conclude, where are we going to be able to see Nick Hatfield the rest of 2023?
I'm gonna be like fishing the Northern Toyotas. I'm gonna fish the rest of those. Try to make
Okay.
the championship. Hopefully, we can make the championship on Table Rock, and of course I'll be down at ICAST if anybody's down there. But
Awesome.
hopefully I'm just gonna be here at the house, hanging some gutters. Working on some houses, and my wife's on me pretty hard about going to the beach, so we probably have to go to the beach at some point in time.
what, what's the beach of choice of the Hatfield family?
Man, we love to go to Destin, Panama. We
Okay.
we've been to several, but I told her, I said we're gonna pick a place on the map that we haven't been to, and we're going. When we go, we're gonna go. So
That's super cool. Man, well, I appreciate you being with us here on Bass Edge Radio. Any final thoughts for the listeners, and just any closing remarks you got before we move on to the next portion of the show?
no, I mean, I just if anybody's out there listening, and you have a thought or a dream of wanting to try to chase fishing as a career, and by any means, I haven't done that yet. I'm on my way. I'm trying. I'm
You
working real
made
hard.
115,000.
Yeah. So, I want to tell them, just stay after it. You can do anything that you set your mind to, and just there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, and you're going to feel like a lot of times that you can't, get it done, and you don't know what you're going to do, and it's tough, and it can be really tough, but just stick to it. If it's something you really want to do, you have to love it, but if you love it, I think you can do anything you set your mind to.
Yeah, it can definitely become a mind game at times. That's absolutely for sure. But well, Nick, it's been awesome. Like I mentioned, to have you here on the show. It's been fun, been educational. So I appreciate you bringing that to the program. Y'all stay tuned. We are going to come back. I'm going to have some closing remarks. We're going to talk about some events coming up very soon. More right here on Bass Edge.
Nitro, a rush of tournament adrenaline. Nitro, the choice of champion, where performance meets play. Nitro, a big water beast, a pure fishing machine. Nitro, release the champion within. Nobody wants to run out of power when they're on the water. There is a better way. Introducing the Charge Marine Power Management Station from PowerPole that does the work of 3 devices: a traditional battery charger, a charge on the run, and an emergency start system. PowerPole Charge.
All right, here we go. Back in it with Bass Edge Radio. Appreciate everybody staying tuned. Man, what an awesome interview with Nick Hatfield. It was great to have him on the program talking Potomac, talking Champlain. Man, that guy's got it together. He's got all kinds of stuff going on. Funny thing is a lot of people, if you haven't really been watching what's going on with Nick Hatfield in the sport of bass fishing, is it's been around for almost 2 years, and he's crushing it. He's crushing it. Won the rookie MLF Invitationals out of the, I guess at that time it was the Pro Circuit. Now first year with the MLF Invitationals. He's got his first W. Dude, he's making it. He's making it strong too, and he's cashing a lot of checks and very, very consistent. So fun to have him bring all of his knowledge right here to the show, not only with the Potomac River event, but obviously, like I mentioned, with the Champlain event, and just kind of his prowessness with all of those things going on. So what a couple things I thought really interesting is, man, he's pretty chill. Like, he doesn't get caught up in, he's excitable, I think. You saw some of that on live if you watch some of the MLF Invitational stuff, but man, he's really got a nice, even, what I would call even keel as far as emotions, and I think that plays really well in this sport. He does, you don't want to get jacked up, if you lose a fish, have a bad tournament. He even talked about, but a good enough event to where he didn't just totally fall out of the standings, and he still went for what he thought was needed, which was, kind of a high finish. He said he's going for the win, man. That's it. That's what he's looking for every time. So anyway, it was great to get to know Nick a little bit better. As Nick mentioned, he's going to be at ICAST. We are going to be at ICAST. That's kind of the next thing in Orlando, Florida. We're going to be talking a little bit here on the next pro coming out at ICAST, but at the same time, right after ICAST, the tournament series just goes ballistic. You've got the Bassmaster Opens, the next stop with the EQ anglers trying to make that Elite Series going to happen up here on the St. Lawrence River. You've got the MLF Invitationals that we talked about with Nick earlier, July 25th through July 27th up there on the Mississippi River. Always, not a big weight event there on the Mississippi River out of La Crosse, but it's always a lot of action, and the close weights, that 4-pounder can just take you so far in that event, because there's just always a lot of 12 to 15-pound bags. But you start raking in that 16, 17-pound bag, you start making some noise. It makes that a fun tournament to watch. And then lastly, the Bassmaster Elite Series, going to be swinging also through Lake St. Clair. I'm sure a lot of those guys learned some stuff there at the Bass Pro Tour and what was going on. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out for that next Elite Series event. That series is smallmouth oriented, could catch some largemouth down there at Champlain, but you got St. Clair, you've got St. Lawrence, and you've got Champlain, those last 3 major events in that series. So it's going to be fun to see if those largemouth guys can kind of stay in the mix that did well earlier this year and stay reasonable on those smallmouth fisheries. Here it is, y'all. Thanks again, Pro Nick Hatfield, for being here on the show, bringing the bassin education again in this episode. And also, we want to be sure you tune back with Bass Edge, a new episode on July 15th. We're going to be in Florida doing the next show. Talk to you a little bit about what's going on in ICAST. Stay with us through the rest of the summer. We're all going to continue to keep growing here on Bass Edge Radio and become better anglers. So, adios. We're going to see you next time. So long, everybody, from Bass Edge. Bye-bye.